What have I done? This is so much to digest. Hello, YouTubers. This is noobifier. On the 21st of October, 2023, we had Citcon. The show was a set of live panels set in Los Angeles. I'm going to be breaking down everything having to do with the show in its own playlist, which is going to be linked up for you right now so you can soak in all the info quickly. This was the first panel, the opening keynote, Shaping the Verse, the Future of Star Engine. We began with a bunch of backers standing on chairs, T-posing. That was really fun for like 10 seconds, and then Chris arrived. There was a flashy intro and the crowd went nuts. Chris said that it was great to see everyone in person after 4 years. I noticed things. Some people were critical of Chris's suit, but I actually like a hand-tailored suit. Chris said that the next week, they wanted to push Pyro Playhouse out to the backers, but they had over 100 PCs waiting in the lobby. For people who were there in person, they could literally try it out. Chris noted that the Squadron Progress Tracker was drying up, but he said that that could be seen as a good thing because we would be seeing what that meant over the next 2 days. Chris said that this 2-day show would demonstrate what was coming, but also why we shouldn't be concerned that the tech will be obsolete by the time the game goes live. He then spooled up a video that would completely demonstrate the complexity of the entire progress. I'll tell you, I'm a sucker for a great demo video. I'm going to probably cover the video by itself because it was basically a laundry list of all of the supporting tech and all of the achievements that have been made up to and including the near future for 10 years. All of it looked lovely, as you would expect. Nobody has ever accused Star Citizen of being an ugly game. Closer to the end of the demo, we had some space cows, a larger outpost, and then the view pulled out from the surface to reveal updated cloud tech and the gas tech. We were shot over to Yela, fully rendered asteroid fields. Again, humbling and impressive to see everything presented like this at once. We saw space whales. We were shot into Pyro. We saw tattoo tech on some NPCs. My thoughts at this point was, am I looking at stuff that's coming out in the next patch? Or is some of this like super far off and just being shown for the sake of it? We were then transported from planet to planet in the Pyro system, and then Chris took control of the stage again. Chris said that the video was a teaser for the next 2 years. He said that all of the things that were being shown on the demo would be explained in better detail. Chris then highlighted Turbulent and its CEO, Benoit. Ben was on deck, and he expressed how happy he was to be there live. The fidelity and immersion seamlessly is the core of the accomplishments. He acknowledged that persistence is a difficult piece that's being added. The clips that we would see would be examples of the most current versions of the tech. Marco, VP of Tech, he wanted to tell us about Star Engine. Seamlessly streaming assets at the scale is a huge challenge. He said that all of this becomes even harder by making the game an MMO with MMO levels of players. He spoke about some of the capabilities of the engine. It all sounded very impressive. Clouds, fog, and weather are new. They have new God Ray tech, which is not faked. The rays are rendered and this plays off the ground and the fog system. All of this functions together. Investing time in the tech results in an engine that can render things with realism not seen elsewhere. What was shown was truly impressive, and I reminded myself that I was only watching a 1080 stream. I can't wait to see all of this rendered in engine, and Marco said that patch 3.22 would have all of the upgrades that were shown on screen. Mike and Ali were next with the dynamic fire within Star Engine. Fire is important for gameplay as it's a driving threat. Fire can come from many sources, and of course, they're modeling many ways to extinguish it. All surfaces and structures that are supporting those surfaces have a flammability value. This includes what the material is and how flammable it is. All of this is being calculated in real time, constantly. Heat, smoke, radiation, gases are simulated. Venting the room will remove the fire, but if the heat is still very high, when the atmosphere is restored, the system will automatically reignite the fire because that's what would happen. The sim is the backend that drives the visuals. There are layers such as smoke, glow, flame, light, spark, and fog. The demo was fun as the extinguisher did snuff the flame, but because it did nothing to reduce the temperature, the fire did exactly what they said it would, and it simply returned. Will was on deck next to talk about water. Old water tech was replaced with forward shading, which preserves the transparency of the water. Light works better, and they can add foam and bubbles. I'm not doing it justice. Items are refracted and reflected in real time. The headlight of your ship will enter and react properly with the water. View distance and fog combine into a new challenge that they say that they have addressed. The demo once again was great. Water surface simulation with physics is the next challenge. We got to see what feet in puddles look like. We saw bullets hitting a lake. Planet-sized water is a tricky thing. Will said that they're able to optimize things to keep the frames high and the water impact load low. Will had another video demonstrating test objects being moved through the water, a big sphere. You could see the foam, ripples, and waves influence each other and influence the body of water. They had a Gladius come in hot over the water and hover over the lake, and as the ship moved over the surface, the wake was visible. Blood, sweat, and tears was the next part. The actor feature improvements will add these to any characters, so that could be NPC or a player as needed. They also worked on a new scope shader that properly distorts as you're approaching the weapon. They're simulating eye relief, and as a guy who spent many years using scopes, yeah, this effect doesn't look like it fakes anything at all, and it's not limited to the person using the scope. A bystander will see the scope rendered properly. They spoke about improvements using HDR. Actual values are mapped in, and this is tuned to the hardware that you provide the game. If you have an HDR monitor, you'll be able to exploit all this. DLSS2 and FSR2 are upscaling techniques that are being leveraged to get the most out of your modern GPUs. They're working to add TSR, which is a next-generation anti-aliasing method. These were said to result in as much as a doubling of frames if the CPU is able to match the GPU. They're driven to make the most using less to maximize our performance with minimal compromise on visual fidelity. Real-time weather sim is still the plan. The sun heats the surface, the heat changes the wind does whatever the wind does on the surface, and then we get weather. They said that it's very early days and we're going to see more on this in the future. Gen 12 and Vulkan have been a long-term integration. They had a demo of this working, but there are still some stability concerns that they'd like to address. Gen 12 opens up hardware ray tracing, which requires an update to the lighting model. He said that it was still very early days, but he gave us a simplified description of the parts. He gave us a demo of ray tracing working in StarEngine. It looks good, and it gives them more options. They spoke about some situations as the HUD on a fighter or a cargo bay door opening, and the sun would blow it out and you wouldn't be able to see anything. Ray tracing addresses this, and they ended by saying that they have a bunch of work to do to keep the engine next gen. Chris was next with the goal of speaking about physics. Star Cloth is a new fabric sim. Wind is a factor, and the cloth can be layered without any visual artifacts. The soccer ball was getting dangerously close. Chris spoke about how they improved the physical mesh to represent cloth more faithfully. Star hair is also being worked on. Hair, gravity, wind, motion. All of these need to be simulated. Cloth tech does not actually help hair tech. They work differently. Rather than tessellation, they're looking at using the spline, the middle of the hair, rather than the surface. All of it sounds great and very technical. They have a plan for destruction. When you break a building, the systems within need to be accounted for. You take out a wall, the power stops, and other factors. This is not limited to buildings. This is all part of destruction propagation in general. It sounds like what was originally called the pipes system, but on roids. Breakable clusters help define how things are going to come apart. They did many demos, which all looked great. Audio was a pre-recorded panel, and we had some before and after examples, so they added a little bit more power and compression, and it does sound better, and it gave the gun a little bit more oomph. They spoke about new propagation, and it all sounds fantastic. They had demonstrated breathing and footsteps in the helmet, but the gun sounds and other external factors sounded muted to let you know that there was no atmosphere. Paul was next, and he would try to show off persistent entity streaming. He said perhaps video or slideshow like before, but no, a live demo would be better. Split screen so we could see the client, and then we could see the entity graph and the server renderer. The segment kind of bogged down the show because it's extremely technical, which is a shame because it's possibly the most important blocker and maybe even the most important thing that we're going to see throughout the whole 2 days. The demo map is broken down into zones. Each zone has its own inventory. Each inventory can be used by the players and the objects in real time. And of course, as assets were added and if an object was moved to a new zone, it migrated zones. The player does not see this. It's seamless. I might break down this segment in greater detail as its own video, and I agree that it's amazing to see server meshing in operation. Challenges are not done. All of this needs to be added, and he spoke about the server authority, which server has control, As the demo continued, we were shown how 2 players moved around the test area, and that was able to handshake and transition seamlessly. If a zone was left vacant, the server could technically be streamed out and then restored if needed, and all of this is meant to be automatic and scale to the needs. Chris closed out this first panel by saying that he was happy and proud of all the work from the team. Spooling servers up and down is brilliant, and Chris said that he cried the first time he saw the demo of this system working. All of this tech will either be in our hands the next patch or very soon. Jared did the outro, and that's it for panel 1. The channel is currently sitting at 76,640, and this is important because one of our Discord members, Deadlift, donated a Hull C for a giveaway. That's linked up and it's free to enter. If we get to 78,000, there's going to be a second prize of an A1 bomber, bringing the total prize pool to $700 US, and it's a great way to fund the game and, of course, to give back to the community. Thank you very much for spending your time with me. If you'd like to support, please consider sharing the content. Look out for the playlist of the breakdown for CitizenCon 2023. Fly safe.